Well, hello to you from the graveyard, an appropriate setting for today's money markets and more. My name's Dominic Frisby. We've got a slightly longer piece than usual today, but I think you'll agree it's a belter. Before we begin, I just wanted to plug a couple of things. First, my Substack, The Flying Frisbee, where this article first appeared. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. It's going great guns. Eventually, I'm going to move this YouTube channel over there. So there's lots of quality content and there's a free option, so you don't have to pay if you don't want. I'll put a link in the description. Secondly, if you're looking to buy gold, consider the Pure Gold Company. I'll put a link in the description for that as well. I have an affiliation deal with them. Premiums are low, quality of service is high, and you can deal with a human being. And thirdly, if you haven't listened to Kisses on a Postcard yet, why not? So, to today's piece, and it is called The Great Decline. Where is this all going? And the UK, along with the rest of Western Europe, is in a very bad place. Where does it end up? So here we go. Something is wrong with my country. Something big and something bad. We can all feel it, though we might not agree on what is actually wrong. The great institutions of state are falling apart. Mighty institutions that I grew up trusting for their integrity, respected around the world, they seem to be crumbling amidst incompetence, incoherence, corruption, and more. The government, essentially unelected, is unpopular and ineffectual. Not that a properly elected government would make much difference. Sir Humphrey and the Blob still seem to run everything. And the system seems set up to look after the system rather than its people. The opportunities for change and reform that were first Brexit and then Boris Johnson's sweeping 29 election win have been squandered, and the government is unable to carry out even its most basic function, which is to defend the borders. The Bank of England has for many years been destroying the value of money. Inflation, which apparently was unforeseeable, is now above 10%, and that is just official inflation. We all know actual inflation is higher. The bank's monetary policies, together with planning laws, have given us an intergenerational wealth divide, which means anyone born after about 1985 cannot afford anywhere to live. They delay starting families as a result, and they have smaller families, with the long-term consequence that the local population is eroded away. This then gives rise to the argument that as locals aren't reproducing, we need immigration. I can't remember trust in the police, who seem more concerned with online wrongthink than violent crime ever having been so low. And I wrote that line before the David Carrick scandal. The courts are overwhelmed. The court system is both expensive and antiquated. The legal system is manipulated and exploited, only affordable to the very rich or very poor. And the penal system is inadequate. Google NHS and news if you want to see what state healthcare is in. Radical progressive ideology has enveloped education. Even the armed forces have been afflicted by it. Universities are overpriced and increasingly irrelevant to the modern work environment. The BBC, the national broadcaster, is loathed for its bias, and its output is for the most part crap. Luxury green ideology has left us with sky-high energy prices. Royal Mail only occasionally delivers. I'm still getting Christmas cards now. The trains are useless and expensive. Who knows how well the civil service is doing? It is opaque. The electoral process has become meaningless. You get the same blob whoever you vote for. Representative democracy is neither representative nor democratic. I could go on. You get the point. Everywhere that is not functioning involves or has involved in its recent history the heavy hand of the state. You could say look at shops, techs, restaurants, the media, areas where the state is less involved, and user dissatisfaction levels are not comparable. Airports actually ran better when the border force went on strike. It's as though the state is inherently incompetent. Why there aren't more libertarians, I will never understand. Meanwhile, all of these institutions are costing a fortune. Spending on most is at all-time highs. By the time you factor in inflation, which is a stealth tax, even the Chancellor recently admitted as much, taxation levels are comfortably in excess of 50%. That is to say, more than half of everything you earn is taken from you by the state to pay for stuff that doesn't work. And that is before we get to the tax on the future, which is debt and deficit spending. And then there is the waste. There are so many examples. There was a thread by Politics UK on how the Tories wasted 33 billion during the pandemic. To put that in perspective, that would be enough to give every family in the UK 1,700 quid each. Imagine how much better we'd all be, or how much better off we'd all be if citizens, rather than the government, could choose where to allocate the money they earn. You spend your money better than they do. And it's not just crumbling institutions and state overreach, they call it the culture wars. But we're in the midst of a religious war, an ideological struggle. What Elon Musk calls the woke mind virus, an aggressive, radically progressive ideology born out of an obsession with identity politics, has taken over, especially within institutions and education, and it's wreaking havoc. From male rapists being put into women's prisons, to expensive green initiatives that actually damage the environment, to a pandemic of cancel culture. Again, I could go on. I don't need to spell it out here. You know what I'm talking about. Small government and libertarianism solves this too, by the way. The virus would not be able to survive and spread without the oxygen of public money. Meanwhile, the demography of the country has changed, and as a result, so has its identity, though few have yet realised that. Last year, 1.1 million people migrated to this country, and that's just the ones who were granted visas. There are plenty more that weren't. In effect, 1 in every 65 people you meet in this country only came here last year. And there's a big difference between multicultural and multiracial, by the way, though the two are massively conflated. I don't think most people have a problem with multiracial. But the culture of the 1970s that I grew up in has vanished. The archetypical Londoner used to be the Cockney, the white working class man or woman born within the sound of Bow Bells. Today, the Cockney, once such an instantly recognisable English type and one that has had an incredible influence on Britain, barely exists. They've all gone. Almost every other UK city is on a similar journey to indigenous British white minority. As the song goes, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Whatever we had has gone, and we will never get it back. Look at some of those videos that do the rounds that show London in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s to realise just how much things have changed and how quickly. And it's not just the UK, it is the whole of Western Europe and probably much of North America too. My German friend jokes that Buenos Aires will be the last European city. On which note, it was almost incredible to watch the World Cup final between France and Argentina. By the time the game ended and the substitutions had been made, it was essentially a match between Africans from Europe and Europeans from South America. And I'm not anti-migration, by the way. If anything, I'm pro it. In my national anthem of Libertaria, I argue for free movement. The mass movement of people is an inevitable tide in the affairs of men. People have always moved, and they always will. But I also view conserving our culture, identity and communities as paramount, and the state is failing to do that. If such things were not state responsibility but locals, and people were empowered by lower taxes and the greater responsibility that comes with a smaller state, the outcome would be different. Mass migration is inevitable. People think it's going to decrease. It's not. It's going to increase. There are more people in the world than ever before. And whether it's those displaced by war, by lack of water, by poverty, hunger, or probably the primary factor, lack of opportunity, more and more of them are on the move. And because of modern communications, more of them are aware of better lives to be had elsewhere. Because of modern travel, more of them are able to travel further and faster than ever before. And as a result, we are in a migration of people of historically unprecedented proportions, and it is only going to increase. Terrified of being labelled racist, Western governments have no coherent philosophy, let alone an actionable strategy, to deal with it all, especially as both the public and the media have lost sight of the difference between what is legal immigration, what is illegal, and what is asylum. Moreover, it has become impossible for all the shouting racist to have a grown-up conversation about how much immigration we actually want. 100,000 a year? 500,000? Net zero? How pertinent is the Douglas Murray title, The Strange Death of Europe? The world is changing fast. For good or for bad, the Britain we once knew has left Middle-earth. I don't think anyone voted for it. I don't see many leaders trying to stop it. But locals who've paid taxes all their life and now receive inadequate services, or see their tax money being spent on these new Britons while they go overlooked, not unreasonably feel betrayed, angry, frightened, and more. Accountable local government with local borders might be better able to act on the wishes of its people and defend against this sudden influx that is disrupting so many communities, if so desired. But that is not possible with Britain's remote, centralised, unaccountable state. And given its record elsewhere, when the state is in charge of borders, why should it be any surprise that they don't function properly? A genuinely free market-driven economy might be happy with open borders and quickly be able to adapt, more people to sell products to, a greater choice of people to employ, all that stuff, what's not to like. But the state systems, the schools, the hospitals, transport, infrastructure, it cannot cope. And as Milton Friedman once observed, you cannot have open borders and an expansive and benevolent welfare state. You can have one or the other, but not both. Yet currently both is what we have, or are attempting to have, and that's why everything is falling apart. In effect, we are paying for ourselves to be colonised. Maybe it's multiculturalism and an expansive welfare state that are incompatible. The latter may only function properly in more monocultural societies such as Japan. And similar arguments can be made about crime levels. They tend to be lower in mostly monocultural cities, especially in Asia, to those in the more multicultural West. But whether it's Hull or Skegness or Mansfield or any other provincial town, when boatloads of young men from different cultures, with no instinctive loyalty to the UK or its ways, and sometimes a contempt for it, are dumped in a community, and the community is given no say in the matter, and the locals have no power to resist, any anger felt is pretty understandable, especially when, there are rapes and so on. There are incidents when the young men are put up in 4 or 5 star hotels, while there are locals, homeless, in tents outside. It's not what people want, it's not what they voted for. And as I say, representative democracy is neither representative nor democratic. The model is broken. So, in addition to all of that, there are finally the incredible developments in technology and the new worlds being designed for us by nameless and in many cases slightly autistic coders in faraway places. There's the extraordinary expansion of surveillance and the erosion of privacy, and those who've monitored ChatGPT will know that before long, as much as half the content on the internet will be generated by bots, but they are not neutral. They are politically biased. What are the implications of that and the extraordinary influence these nameless coders will have to shape the global narrative? Never mind whose fault this all is, or the rights and wrongs of it all. We all have our ideas, and plenty of them. What I want to know is, where is this going? I've been thinking about it a lot. Many draw parallels with the fall of Rome and the invading barbarians at the gates. Others say we're headed into totalitarianism, akin to George Orwell's 1984. Many of my Eastern European friends think we're making the same mistakes they once made and are headed into some kind of 21st century Marxism. My Venezuelan friends think the same. Some see a new rise of fascism akin to the 1930s. I see parallels all the time. Some look to Isaac Asimov and the rise of intelligent machines. Just see my piece on ChatGPT if you just want to see just how advanced machine learning now is. My genius Bitcoin billionaire mate, who's long since disappeared somewhere remote in New Zealand, thinks, and he's always right about everything, but he thinks we're going into a world where everybody is housed in sort of Butlins, Centre Parks, Club Med type, depending on your socio-economic status, type holiday resorts with virtual reality headsets all day while robots do all the work. And that vision tallies somewhat with Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Another compelling scenario comes in the James Dale Davidson and Lord William Rees-Mogg book, in which they describe The Sovereign Individual, in which they describe a two-tiered society. On one tier, thanks to advances in technology and communication, there'll be a class of largely untaxed digital nomads travelling from place to place, operating independently of nation-states and government structures. Meanwhile, there'll be a much larger class of people trapped in their nations, working in the physical economy rather than the stateless digital one, heavily taxed and indebted. Hard money advocates, Bitcoiners, gold bugs, they argue that some kind of hyperinflation and the destruction of money, of fiat money, is inevitable, or that with the emergence of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization that the US dollar is soon to lose its reserve currency status, with major implications for the international balance of power. In that case, Western Europe is probably going the way of once wealthy Argentina. Great reset theory in the wake of COVID and the vaccines and all that furore. That powerful yet secret actors and organisations, especially the WEF, are planning all of this, looks rather more credible than it once did. There is also a persuasive argument that the expansion of NATO and Vladimir Putin's ambitions and the conflict of Ukraine is going to take us eventually to nuclear war. There's a lot to worry about. These really are incredible times. So back to the underlying question, where is all this going? I was in the pub with my friend the other day, the director Alex McCarran, and this subject came up. And he had a simple but compelling answer. South Africa. The South Africanization or the South Africanification of everything. There are so many parallels: crumbling institutions, widespread corruption, mass migration, failing rule of law, rising crime rates, especially violent crime, inadequate policing, reliance on private security, identity politics, siloed, ghettoized communities within a so-called multicultural country, race-based crime, justified because of history, many cultures, each with their grievances thrust together and by no means living harmoniously. It's a credible scenario and one I can envisage. Just a small example, private security vehicles, you see them everywhere in Johannesburg. You never used to see them in the UK. but now you do. My friend lives in Notting Hill. He sent me this image the other evening. I think we're just going to see more and more private security cars in the UK. It's another symptom of a failing state and incompetent, inadequate policing. I think my view is that we're going to see a bit of all those scenarios that I've just described. Nevertheless, amidst all of that doom and gloom, I like to be positive, and things are better than we realise. In all of this negativity, in many ways, things are much better than we may think, and the world is in a better state than it's ever been, in that we're living longer than ever. There are fewer people living below the poverty line than ever. The number of people dying from natural disasters is lower than it has ever been. Information technology means we have greater access to information than ever. 6.8 billion people now have a smartphone. Think of all the possibilities that open up as a result. More than 80% of the global population now has access to electricity. With modern transport, we're able to go further than ever, quicker than ever. And the world is, as a result, more accessible than ever. We might not enjoy her status, but most of us live with luxuries Marie Antoinette could never have dreamed of. Life is so much easier for us than it was for our ancestors, and we should be grateful to them for the benefits we enjoy as a result of what they went through. Wonderful things are possible. There is much to be positive about. There has never been a better time to be alive. But something is missing. Something is wrong. We can all feel it. Our belief systems are awry. I'm sure it's to do with the absence of religion. Naive worship of incompetent state institutions has replaced it. So am I right about this? Put your thoughts in the comments. Discuss them. And how do you navigate it all as an investor and protect and grow your wealth? Gold and Bitcoin are the obvious anti-state choices. They may work, they may not. I think it makes sense to own some gold and own some Bitcoin in all of this. But as I said, my recommended bullion dealer is the Pure Gold Company, and I've written a guide to Bitcoin on my Substack, which you can read. I'll put a link in the description. But yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching. Please share this video with your friends on Twitter, wherever, YouTube, and if you want to listen to Alex and I discuss the South Africanification or the South Africanization of everything, I'll put a link to that podcast in the description as well. And make your number one resolution for 2023 to listen to Kisses on a Postcard if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another video very soon. Goodbye.